Let's hear it from Ms. Nettie. One of the great leaders from this community that has provided so many great leaders for the state of Texas. I was talking to one of your extraordinary state representatives today. Have you all heard of a guy named Diego Bernal? Yeah. Love that guy. And I said, look, I am meeting school teachers and counselors and librarians and cafeteria workers and school bus drivers, everyone who makes public education possible in the state of Texas. These are my heroes, and I want to know how we're going to do better for them. And as we were talking, Diego said, you know, if I were governor, and I like this idea a lot, he said, look, there are a lot of great plans over the long term, and we've got to talk through these, and we got to understand them from the perspective of educators and make sure that we execute on them. But right now, we're still in a pandemic where we're asking parents to step up and substitute teach because their kids' teachers are out sick with COVID. We've had far too many who have left the profession because we've asked them to do the impossible. They're already working a second, sometimes a third job to make ends meet. They're held to a high-stakes, high-pressure, standardized test that in no way adequately measures the performance of that child or the potential that she or he has down the road. They have to worry in the state of Texas because we just signed permitless carry into law that anyone with a loaded gun might walk through those doors, and that child for whom they have sacrificed so much already, they may have to put their body in front of hers. And on top of all of that, public education under this governor and in this state right now is not only not a priority, but those teachers feel that they're at war with the person in the highest position of public trust. Because get this, when classroom teachers or those counselors, and in Texas it's like one counselor to 500 students, one counselor to 2,000 students in some schools. After they have tried so hard to help these kids, this governor says, if you want those children to wear a mask to prevent them from getting sick, I will prevent you from doing it. And one of the teachers said, you know, as I'm trying to fight COVID on behalf of these amazing young kids before me, I feel like I've also got to fight our governor. And right now, the state of Texas, nothing that any of us should be proud of, leads the nation in the number of children who are in a hospital bed right now with COVID. Not for any act of God or reason of Mother Nature, and it's no accident that it's happening here. We have a governor who does not believe in the science that is being taught in those schools and the best public health guidance given by the medical professionals who put their lives on the line for all of us. And we need somebody who is going to take this seriously. So he said, Beto, if I were governor, and when you are governor, let's call all those school teachers together, all those educators, and listen to them, Beto, and find out what it's going to take to keep them in the profession. What their best answers are to the questions that we have as a state. If you will allow them to lead on the most important issue before us, there is no stopping us. I love Diego Bernal and the spirit of San Antonio and the public school educators who make this such a leading community across the country. Your former mayor and a good friend of mine, Julian Castro, pioneered pre-K education to make sure that your income did not decide your opportunities in the classroom, how you would fare over the course of your academic career, and what you would be able to do after you graduated from high school or college or your graduate degree or whatever called you to do what you were put on this planet to do in the first place. I love that that came out of this community, and I was thinking, as the governor prepares another photo opportunity on the border, where he is spending $3 billion of your money to demonize and vilify those who come to this country, very often fleeing some of those brutal conditions anywhere on this planet, seeking to come, choosing A state and a country of immigrants that is that much stronger and more successful, and yes, safer by the presence of those who have come here to build a new life for themselves, to do better for their families, but also to give back to the success of America. While he's doing that and sending 10,000 members of the Guard from proud military communities like these, and I had a chance to say thank you to some veterans on my way in here today. This is another way that San Antonio has distinguished itself throughout this state and across this country. 10,000 members of the Guard who constitutionally are unable to do much of anything to protect us or to keep us safe, who are living in these squalid man camps, some of them with no access to a toilet, taken from their families and their careers and their hometowns at a moment's notice. And as of this moment, and as of the latest count, 5 of them in the last 3 months have taken their own lives under these conditions. The DPS troopers who've been taken off the streets and the highways of this state and deployed down to the border at a time that we have the most accidents on our highway since the year 1980, the second highest on record, where tickets written in the Rio Grande Valley have gone up 1,000%. There's a tax on driving while being brown in the RGV right now, because there are so many DPS troopers there who have, again, no ability to do anything about this issue of immigration. Imagine if instead of a surge at the border, we had a surge in our classrooms, in our public schools, and a focus on education in the state of Texas. No stopping us if we could get that done. The things that we want to achieve make a lot of sense, and not just to Democrats, nor only to independents, and it's not just the preserve of Republicans either. Public education, for example, is about all of us. And if we want a world-class system in this state, we've got to say it, we've got to campaign for it, we've got to vote like our kids' lives depend on it, because they do. We've got to win, and then we've got to get it done. Some other issues that could bring us together. What if the best jobs in America were created right here in Texas and in San Antonio? We were 31st in the nation last year in job creation. We should be number 1. There's no greater workforce, no better people, no bigger opportunity than the one that exists right here in Texas. We should be making the most of it. And by the way, those who work full-time in this state, 4 out of 10 of them do not make a living wage. They're the ones working that second shift or second job. They are the ones dependent on public assistance. They are the ones sleeping on the streets or on the shelters tonight, because though no matter how hard they make, at $7.25 an hour in this state, it is simply not enough. And when you don't have paid time off, and when you're penalized for having a kid or taking care of a sick parent or being there for your kid when she's unable to go to school, how in the world are we going to get better unless we have a governor who focuses on those workers, who makes this economy work? What if, at a time of nursing and teacher shortages, the state of Texas invested in training more teachers and nurses to make sure that we're doing better when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to public education? Or this idea, expanding Medicaid so that more people can see a doctor in the first place, no longer have to worry about dying of diabetes or the flu or curable cancers, in the wealthiest country on the face of the planet, in the 9th largest economy on earth, which is exactly what's happening today, because our current governor has left $100 billion in Medicaid expansion money on the table, every penny of which you have paid in your federal income taxes, that is going to some other state, some other people, connecting them with doctors right now, which could be coming to us. In addition to the care, the lives saved, the doctors and nurses and medical professionals recruited, the mental health care delivered in a state whose largest mental health care provider is the county jail system. We could also reduce our property taxes, because when someone walks into that hospital making too much to qualify for Texas Medicaid today, not enough for the subsidies in the Affordable Care Act, and cannot pay for the care that they receive, The bill's $10,000 bucks, $50,000 bucks, $300,000. The sky's the limit in these hospitals. They can't pay it, but you and I and every other property taxpayer in this hospital district will. Or you pay it on higher rates for your own health insurance. Let's take yes for an answer. Expand Medicaid in the state of Texas, especially when the federal government is paying 95 cents on the dollar. So look, when you go back to work or to school or to see your family after this event, they say, what is this guy Beto all about? How will my life be better? If we elect him governor of the state of Texas, say he wants to create more and better jobs for Texas. He wants us to focus and improve our system of public education, and he wants to expand Medicaid. Not Democratic Party ideas, but Texas values that all of us can get behind, work on, and make happen, and improve this state in the process. But what's standing between us and these outcomes? It's the current occupant in the office of the governor, who instead of focusing on jobs or education or being able to see a doctor, has got these guardsmen deployed to the border. He's failed in his response to the pandemic. 76,000 fellow Texans dead, so many, so unnecessarily, as he tied the hands of Judge Wolf, of school board trustees, of mayors and local leaders, and literally prevented them from doing what it would take to save the lives of those in their lives and in their communities. The power grid, maybe you've heard of it, but last February, in the energy capital of North America, we could not keep the lights on, or the heat running, or the water flowing. And pretty soon our pipes froze and then burst and flooded our homes, destroyed our drywall, forcing us to clean up the mess. And not only were we out of electricity for days, in some cases weeks, but at least 700 Texans lost their lives. Little kids who froze to death in their beds because their moms could not pile enough blankets on their shivering bodies. Veterans who left their homes to go out to their truck to get that extra tank of oxygen and froze to death there. Mothers and daughters dying together of carbon monoxide poisoning, trying to get warm in the garage of their house. Ladies and gentlemen, this happened in our state in the 21st century, in the year of our Lord, 2021, under the watch of Governor Abbott, who was warned that we had not weatherized the grid, that we needed to make sure that we protected the gas supply. But instead of listening to the experts or to any of us, he listened to his donors, those willing to cut million-dollar checks to prevent any regulation or oversight or cost to them and their bottom line. And all of us paid the price. But if that wasn't enough, I want you to look at your electricity bill, at your home heating bill, this and every month going forward. You will see an increase over what you paid at this time last year of 20 to 50 bucks on average. At a time of inflation that they're blaming on everybody else, I just want you to know that what you're paying is going up because of one man and one man only, Greg Abbott. It's the Abbott tax that each and every single one of us will pay as long as that guy is governor. This guy who couldn't manage the grid or the response to the pandemic, who wouldn't trust the women of this state and put a $10,000 bounty on anyone assisting any woman making her own decisions about her own body. These are the wages of our failure to elect people into positions of public trust who will deliver for all of us. Those who will not listen to us, who do not trust us, who do not reflect our values and our priorities, this is where we end up. But the good news is that we can change this. There are a lot of us here tonight who may have come for the beer but are staying for the political speech. And the spirit of this community, I mentioned your representation, your state reps who are phenomenal. Too many here to name, but all of whom have been helpful to us. Your county commissioners like Justin Rodriguez, who went door to door with me in West San Antonio during the freeze and the power outage to deliver water for people who needed it. The voters who are going to turn out despite the voter suppression. Greg Abbott in this legislature took the toughest state in the nation in which to vote and made it even harder. And the early returns from those of you who have requested mail-in ballots is that 50% of them have been rejected so far just in this election. So for anyone who thought that voter suppression or this attack on our democracy was academic or theoretical or happened up in DC and did not matter to us, for our fellow San Antonians and Texans and Americans in this great democracy that so many men and women have put their lives on the line to defend, and all too many have lost them in the process, we are losing the right to vote as we speak. We have to make sure that we are more than a match for this and that we overcome it. Some good news. Last night, we held an organizing Zoom call for our campaign. So anyone who'd ever indicated any interest in volunteering for Beto for Texas, we asked you to join a Zoom last night. 3,200 people signed up. 1,000 people agreed to host a canvas, meaning you have people over to go knock on the doors of your neighbors. That's thousands of block walkers who just joined the call last night. Thousands more signed up to write letters. So for all of you who have parents who ask you, why did you get that English degree? This is how you put it to use. And as someone put it to me today, we've got the ability to overcome voter suppression and to protect the right to vote in our DNA. If you think about Willie Velasquez and Maldef and Rosie Castro and La Raza Unida and those who made sure that their voice was heard, and LULAC, now led by a Texan, Domingo Garcia, those who made sure that their voices were heard against the odds and in some cases against the state law that prevailed at that time. People like Lawrence Nixon from El Paso, who in 1924 challenged the all-white Democratic primary that had been instituted by the state legislature at that time that said that no black man or black woman would be allowed to vote in the state of Texas, and was on the books for 20 years when the Democratic primary was the only election that mattered in this state, but overcame it in Smith versus Allwright, thanks to another great Texan in Houston. We have the leadership here on civil rights, on voting rights, on facing the long odds and overcoming them. And that's how we're going to win this election. It's all of us coming together to do all we can at this defining, decisive moment of truth. And for those big things that we want to achieve, on jobs, on great schools, on being able to see a doctor, and those bad things that we want to roll back, like that reproductive and abortion health care ban that not only hurts women seeking to make a choice about their health care and their future and their body, but as these reproductive health care clinics close down, means that fewer women can get a cervical cancer screening or reproductive health care of any kind or see a doctor at all. And it has resulted in this state being at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis 3 times as deadly for women of color. We can roll that back, but only if we win this election and overcome this voter suppression. So I've got to ask you, do you want to join this effort? And make sure we do all that we can within our power at this moment to deliver for one another and for the generations that follow us and for everyone who is counting on us now at this moment of truth. It is on us. We learned this past week that the United States Senate will not be riding to the rescue on a federal voting rights bill. We learned from the earlier turns on these rejected vote-by-mail applications that it won't be the county registrars or the Secretary of State in the state of Texas. This one is on all of us. And what we have to decide is just how we want to feel on the morning after this election, on the 9th of November. We want to be exhausted, a little hungover, knowing that we have given all that we possibly could have to this effort. We knocked on every door. We made every phone call. We wrote every single letter to reach every single voter in the state of Texas. And we wrote nobody off. If you're a Democrat, we assume nothing about you. I haven't earned your vote until I've talked to you and listened to you and committed to working with you. If you're a Republican, we're not writing you off. You are welcome here with us. We want your help and support as well. You're our fellow Texans. Independents too. And for the 7 million who did not cast a ballot in 2020. Though it was the most important election, arguably, in American history since 1864, we assume nothing about you. We never claim that you're lazy, or that you don't care about our democracy, or that this doesn't matter to you. It may have been that you were clocking in for your second shift at 7-Eleven. You were taking care of a sick parent. It is so damn confusing to register to vote in the state of Texas. You never figured it out, and it's not your fault. It's okay. No one ever showed up at your door and invited you into this democracy and told you how you could be a part of this victory. Well, we are not going to make that same mistake. We are reaching out to our friends, to our neighbors, to our family members, to our classmates, to our colleagues. Everyone is welcome. It is the only way that we're going to win this and get Texas on the right track. You all ready to do this? Well, I'm ready to do it with you. There's a website. It's betofortexas.com. If you will go on there, you can sign up in a matter of seconds. We'll get back in touch with you with an email to give you instructions on a canvas or a letter writing campaign or some other way that you can participate in this effort and in our victory. You can also make a donation to make sure that we have the resources to contest in every county, reach every single eligible voter. And to everyone who's chipped in so far, thank you. We've had more than 120,000 unique contributions come into this campaign. That's everybody doing their part as well. And then talk to those people in your life. Your Republican mother-in-law, your son who is 24 years old and has never voted in an election because he just doesn't think that it matters or his vote will count. That neighbor of yours that you've never taken the time to talk to, this is the perfect excuse to introduce yourself. And for the single women and men out here, if you're looking to meet people, there's no better way than going door to door. We'll keep you safe. We'll make sure that we're wearing masks, that we're following the appropriate protocols. But if we learn nothing else from 2020, we cannot phone this one in. We cannot do it through remote control. We're not going to tweet or Facebook post or TikTok dance our way to victory. This is person to person, human being to human being, face to face, and that is how we're going to win. Thank you all for coming out here tonight. Thanks for being part of this. We're going to stick around for a little while if you want to come by and say hello. Thank you all. Thank you, San Antonio.